Dragon Ball FighterZ just took the world by a storm in EVO France 2025 by announcing a new invitational tournament, a new big patch for the game that is already out, and a new DLC character on Super Saiyan 4 Daima Goku. These news are absolutely nuts. It is crazy that Dragon Ball FighterZ is actually back. This is one of the most beloved fighting games of the last decade. So in this video, we are going to be discussing 12 DLC characters that need to be added to Dragon Ball FighterZ so it can go back to the top of the fighting game community and dominate fighting games once again. And of course, we gotta kick off this list with one of the new designs in the Dragon Ball IP, which is Gohan Beast. I think that almost everybody would want to see Gohan Beast on Dragon Ball FighterZ. He would probably look incredible with the animation style of the game, and he has kind of become a pretty popular character after the movie, after being added to the manga. I think that it is a visual design that a lot of people love, and even though we have not seen that much of this character actually animated, except for the movie of course, I think that everyone would be happy to see it in the game and actually see gameplay with the character. So I think that Gohan Beast is kind of like a lock-in character if Dragon Ball FighterZ has any chance of getting more DLC than just Super Saiyan 4 Daima Goku. So to me, he just has to make it in. It would be kind of insane to not put him on the list. And then right next to Gohan Beast, of course, it's gotta be as number 2, Orange Piccolo. I think that it is pretty obvious also that if this game is gonna get more DLC, Orange Piccolo has to make it in. It is one of the most cool transformations since, you know, the Dragon Ball Super era of DBC, and I believe that if Orange Piccolo makes it in, he would also be a really interesting character when it comes to how he's gonna be designed in terms of gameplay, because since he becomes a giant, you know, since he has a giant form, I don't know how would you incorporate that into the gameplay in the game. Maybe it would be just a level 3 super, but it would probably look amazing in the animation of Dragon Ball FighterZ, just like Gohan Beast. And the other thing is, I think that Piccolo is such a beloved character overall from the Dragon Ball franchise that many people will be happy if we get a different version of Piccolo in the game. We already have, of course, the classic DBC one, but who would be mad if we get this amazing transformation in the game? How cool it will look with the animations, how cool the gameplay design could be, and how amazing that level 3 with the giant form could end up being. So I believe that Orange Piccolo also has to make it into the list. Hey, just in the case that you've been enjoying the content until now, please consider giving the video a like and subscribing. I cover a ton of different fighting games and it helps the channel to keep growing. Now, let's get into number 3. And for the number 3, I actually want to move out of the Dragon Ball Super topic in general and actually talk about a couple of movie villains that I would love to see in this game and that will probably be really cool, and those are Android 13 and Bojack. I think that both of these characters are very beloved in the DBC fanbase. They are some of the coolest villain designs when it comes to DBC movies, with Cooler of course, but Cooler is already in. And I would just love to see both Android 13 and Bojack, and the reason why I'm kind of like putting them together is because I believe that it would be a cool idea if we design them, you know, if we put them in Dragon Ball FighterZ as kind of like similar characters in terms of gameplay design to Ginyu, you know, and we basically give Bojack his team and Android 13 the other androids, and they have a similar gameplay design to the Ginyu Force. It doesn't need to be exactly the same, but I believe that it is an opportunity to create more characters that follow that logic, and it would make them really unique characters in terms of gameplay. I think that Ginyu is one of the most unique characters in the game because of what he does gameplay design wise, and of course his level 3 is really important to his uniqueness. But you could follow a similar route with Android 13 and Bojack, and it would probably be one of the most fun, unique, and amazing characters that we could add into the DBFZ roster. So I would personally love to see Android 13 and Bojack as 2 new movie villains in the roster, following kind of the logic of the Ginyu design. Now that I think about it, that was technically number 3 and 4, so sorry about that. But for number 5, I would like to take a step back, actually into older Dragon Ball, because I think that there's a spot in the roster that needs to be for King Piccolo. If Dragon Ball FighterZ has any chance of having more DLC, I think that King Piccolo just needs to have a spot. He is the OG Dragon Ball villain, you know, like the big threat from the OG Dragon Ball series. It has some of the most iconic fights in the manga and the old anime from Dragon Ball. And I think that King Piccolo is cool enough and unique enough to justify having a spot in the roster if we get more DLC. and we need more like OG Dragon Ball characters, you know. There aren't that much in the roster. We don't even have like OG Goku, you know, like Kid Goku. We have GT Kid Goku, but it's kind of like a mix of both of the characters since he has the power pole. So it is very obvious that they were trying to fit both of the characters together. So maybe we can just accept that we're not gonna get Kid Goku from the OG Dragon Ball, but we can get King Piccolo. So if we had any chance of having an OG Dragon Ball villain, I think that this needs to be the choice. And now let's take one step further, but not that further away, for number 6. And I think that another like very classic character that deserves to be in the game is Raditz. You know, Raditz is not in the roster of Dragon Ball FighterZ. He for sure would be my number 6. And Raditz just has a lot going for him. Like, he is a legendary character from the first saga of Dragon Ball Z. A lot of people kind of like recognize Raditz instantly as a character, even though he was not in the show that much when you think about it in comparison to, of course, the main characters. But he was that first big threat in DBZ, and there is a lot of very iconic like manga and anime, basically, you know, shots of Raditz. So I think that there is a lot of stuff to put into the game for Raditz to be a really cool character in terms of animation. And well, gameplay design wise, maybe he would not be like the most unique character ever, but we got a lot of Gokus in the game, so we cannot complain that much about that route. And I just gotta see that double Sunday Superman. I need it. So I would give Raditz a spot, even though I think some people would not agree. Okay, and now for number 7 and 8, let's actually go all the way back to Dragon Ball Super, because I would like to see in this game Whis. I think that Whis would be a great addition, and also a tag team character in the Gammas. I think that both the Gammas and also Whis, of course, make a ton of sense for the game gameplay wise. They would be really unique, especially the Gammas. Like, I would love to see this sort of like tag team logic character that you go and change, you know, whatever way you want. Maybe one is a summoner and the other one is like a rush down mix up heavy character, and you change depending on what, you know, a specific situation of the fight you're playing. I think that the Gammas would be great. And for Whis, I think that he's just this typical like super OP character canon wise, that you could translate that into the game just like it happened with UI Goku, for example, and it would make for a really cool character. I guess that there's also an argument for Toppo, so maybe some people would move Whis or the Gammas out and put Toppo in the game, and we can leave that open. You know, always in my roster videos I kind of leave a couple of spots open, because there's always a big discussion with a couple of characters. So for the 2, you know, Dragon Ball Super slots extra that I'm adding, I would add Whis and the Gammas, but if anybody out there wants, you know, to actually see Toppo instead, remove whoever you want, but those will be my picks to kind of finish the Dragon Ball Super editions for DLC. Okay, and now for number 9 and 10, let's actually go back to the movie characters, and these 2 ones, I gotta say, are kind of like favorites for me. I'm kind of putting them in here because I just want to see them. I don't have a bigger argument, but I would love to see Pikkon and Tapion. I think that both of these characters, in my opinion, are some of like the most cool, you know, you could call side characters in the history of the Dragon Ball IP. I just love Tapion visually. I love, you know, the sword fight archetype, so I would like to see another sword fighter alongside Trunks in the game. And then for Pikkon, again, I just love the way he looks, his visual design. He also has some really cool techniques that will be pretty unique to design in terms of gameplay. So when it comes to adding a couple of other, you know, movie characters, I will go to the good side and add Pikkon and Tapion. I think that it will be cool. A lot of people like these characters. I know that I'm not the only one. I just don't have a bigger argument, you know. I gotta be honest, I just love these characters. They kind of remind me of, you know, the impact that Dragon Ball had in my childhood. So I just want to see Pikkon and Tapion in the game. And now for number 11, we still got one more villain, and I don't know how the hell this character did not make it into Dragon Ball FighterZ yet, to be honest. And it's gotta be Omega Shenron. Like, how the hell is Omega Shenron not in the game when we have Baby? We have technically, you know, GT and Super Saiyan 4 GT Goku. It's super weird that Omega Shenron is not in the game. And you know, what arguments do you even want? Like, this is a super cool design, very classic from the GT villains, And you could also make an argument for Super 17, you know, that's kind of like the duality that we have here. As I said earlier, you can kind of choose if you're watching the video, you know. I would put Omega Shenron. I just think that he adds much more gameplay wise to the game. We all love, you know, all the supers that Omega Shenron could do, all the moves, and of course all the super cool shots that Omega Shenron has in GT. I just think that it would be really cool to see him in the game actually, you know, gameplay wise. He would probably be a really unique character, at least in terms of what animations will happen with some of his attacks. And yeah, I would just like to see Omega, of course. You can also make the argument for Super 17, just like I said, I also like Super 17, but we don't have more spots, so I'm gonna pick Omega Shenron. And now for number 12, the last character. This was really hard for me to choose actually. I was kind of like hesitant about what I should add here, but I ended up deciding for Super Saiyan 3 Adult Vegeta from Daima. I think that this is another of those designs from Daima that is really cool. It's very, you know, fan service heavy, like everybody wanted to see Vegeta go Super Saiyan 3 and whatever, and it happened. And the thing is, in Dragon Ball FighterZ, we don't have any Super Saiyan 3 character. Like, of course, Super Saiyan Goku goes into Super Saiyan 3 when he does his super, but we don't have a playable Super Saiyan 3 character. So why not? You know, we are getting Super Saiyan 4 Daima Goku, so why not get the counterpart of the protagonist with Vegeta and his Super Saiyan 3 transformation? It would make a lot of sense. It would be really cool. It would fill that Super Saiyan 3 spot that we don't have in the game. So yeah, I would love to see this character actually. I think that it will be a really cool addition into the roster. Okay, so that was the list, guys. I really hope that Dragon Ball FighterZ actually makes a great comeback. It's one of my favorite fighting games ever. And again, as I said earlier in the start, it's one of the most beloved fighting games by the community in general, by the Dragon Ball community, by the fighting game community, by a lot of groups, to be honest. And it got a lot of people into fighting games. So I really want to see the game back at the top. I hope that this means that either it's gonna get more DLC or that we are gonna get a sequel. You know, I know that ArcSys is occupied with, you know, Guilty Gear Strive 2.0 and with Tapion, but maybe ArcSys is actually big enough already that they can even make a fighter sequel on the side while Tapion is already out, you know. Let's hope that that is the case, because I really want to see DBFZ back. And of course, if you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe to support the channel. I hope that you did. Let me know in the comments which characters you would like to see in the roster if we get more DLC, and see you on the next one, guys.